we interrupt all the other random fun short videos that I've been making for a special breakdown here of my Sorcerer build. So here we are. If you have not gotten through Cerulean Ultimate up to level 500, whether or not you want the spoiler, either tune in and listen or just come back another day. I am working on a replacement for the guild goodie that you need to really get the Sorcerer build as I've gotten it done. So without further ado, here comes the spoiler. And so this is the Nature Guild, and I'm up to level 36, and I think it does take quite a few beatings of false gods before that didn't sound right. You have to defeat some false gods. There we go. Oh, that sounded lame. But anyway, that's what our channel is all about. So there is the Razorweb Arachnalisk right here. It's on page 2. I'm not sure where exactly it'll show up once you finally get it. But this is the mini engine here that gets all the damage to creatures that have snared. And snared is the first debuff that is applied when you're playing as Sorcerer. So you don't even have to play Sorcerer. You can just use Curse of the Swarm, but make sure your team has a lot of different classes. That way you get more debuffs when Curse of the Swarm is cast. Or you can also use Entangling roots. So that is something that will apply snared to all creatures. Let me just get to the codex here. There is a less effective Entangling spell that gives a 50% chance for everything to get snared. So I just put cast twice on that as an enchantment. So alright, that's a singular spell. Constriction, that's a singular target spell. So that was what it was, Entangle. So I do believe you get this spell first. So just put, again, cast twice on this if you have to. And just equip it to whoever, even if you have to do a class swap to get it equipped. But I'll show you a breakdown of who I have for creatures. Now I do want to say that Zonte is absolutely hyped the heck up. So he has gotten lots and lots of intelligence scrolls put on, lots and lots of enhancements at Gate of the Gods. So your Zonte may not be able to punch through and automatically kill one or more creatures with Corpse Explosion. Just the way that Zonte is, though, he's a pretty rough, tough character or creature to have, rather. And so just keep on leveling him up, focus on intelligence boosts on the artifact, and I'll show you what the artifact is all about as well. And this artifact has one heck of a Nether Stone put in it. So what the Nether Stone does is casts Ritual of Summoning on turn, and also 9 meteors on cast. So this is a very rare kind of advantage to have for Zonte. I see that the spell gem is not quite level 400 as I have had before, but it is very very advantageous just for Zonte. So you want to have 9 meteors because or something that deals quite a bit of damage in multiple bursts, like let's see, Angry Orchard, for example, and let's see, What was another? I think Pumpkin King's Wrath or something like that. That's a spell that causes a certain amount of damage, which scales up to be massive with Zonte's trait. That's a sample of a repeat damage spell. But let's just take a quick peek at Ritual of Summoning. I forgot, what exactly that did. So, oh, come on. I almost have to have this riddling. Let's see. Ritual of Summoning. Caster is killed and your creature's minions gain 3 stacks. Oh, man. Okay, so, yeah, maybe this is better for Purgatorian. So, yeah, wow. Okay, so that's why Zonte keeps on getting killed all of a sudden. But I mean, with the meteor spell, 9 meteors. I mean, it's gonna be a trade-off. You're just gonna wind up having, so much damage being cast on random targets as massive damage instead of small. So definitely, if you can get rid of Ritual of Summoning somehow in any Nether Stone that you do find, I doubt this combination will be there waiting to hold you back, but this was the one downside to the artifact, and I'll show you the regular boosts that we got here and so on. So we got Pump Drill in here for the trick, and also there was the Arcane Sigil, I think, for extra spell power. So the 3 spell gem slots that I got put to extra use recently. Let me show you what those are all about. But before I do switch, I'll say that Equilibrium is the trait for the artifact, which is absolutely killer with Zonte because he will deal huge amounts of damage to start with, and then this will give a bonus of about 25% of all the damage that's already been dealt. So, I mean, it is pretty much like compounding interest, except with damage. So, there is a small boost here for speed, just to keep up with the Joneses here. I mean, you might have some slightly faster enemies, and you just need to get your foot in the door. And then Corpse Explosion is the spell, which has a chance to cast whenever Zonte casts a spell. So that's just self-perpetuating. And the fuse trait for Zonte is Final Excretion. So after an enemy dies, this creature will cast Corpse Explosion. So all you really need is one creature to get killed by Jagged Edges, the property of the or the trait of the Razorweb Arachnalisk. So this is just a real good way to second things, and I mean, you'll see that the damage will go hand in hand pretty easily, unless you really haven't opened up much of the game. And I mean, just keep on practicing. If that's the case, keep on upgrading, and you'll eventually be able to do some lethal damage from Corpse Explosion once the Ice Mane Yeti here, or whatever you choose to use to fuse with the Arachnalisk, once that damage does kill the first creature. So that pretty much sums up Zonte, except for the spell gems. So I've got Corpse Explosion again, Chaos Orb, That just gets rid of minions and buffs, I believe, and does a lot of damage. Memento of defense, the more you cast it, the better your defense is. Haven't really used it much. Shadow Crash, very good based on, I believe, number of spells cast. Yep. And let's see, Feign Death. I've got a Nethermancer Ned, Vitja's Surprise, artifact material to use over here. Let's see. Yeah, so it's on the Valor Chimera, and so basically that just says when this creature dies or is resurrected, it will cast 3 of its spells. So Corpse Explosion, Life Orb, which resurrects things on your side and gives living creatures a good health boost, and then Angry Orchard, so additional damage right there. Casting 4 times, which is awesome with Zonte's main trait, Expanded Power, which makes that large amount of damage massive. So that is just about everything. I do have Desperate Sacrifice if needed. Sometimes you just need that 100% health boost, and something like Requiem, in the middle of a hostile firefight, just might not give your creatures enough staying power. So Desperate Sacrifice gets all other creatures 100% health. And then Vivacious Vodka is a boost spell that moves a creature of yours to the top of the timeline, and it's not castable twice at once. There's Entangling Roots. It's generous, and the duration is increased by 6. Once this is cast with the Arachnalisk, it's pretty much game over. You don't even really have to worry about the duration being increased that long. And then Riotous Rum, creatures get feared, and it has defense penetration as well. So a good chunk of extra damage, and that is Zonte. So next creature up is Siren Purifier. The main thing with the Purifier is that when it attacks creatures, it puts them to sleep, and also any sleeping creatures can get attacked safely without getting woken up. So there's Hopelessness, very important to combine with the Razorweb Arachnalisk. Enemies with Snared take 50% more damage. This trait doesn't stack, of course. And then, wait a minute. Oh man, I didn't even, oh wow. I've been doing all this awesome damage and I haven't even fused it with anything yet. Killer. Okay. Wow. So yeah, I'll add another trait there shortly there. Okay. So here's the artifact. It's kind of just well-rounded. Has a chance to inflict stone, a good chunk of extra attack damage, and then Archangel's Blessing does wind up giving extra buffs and 30% health to all your creatures. And this shiny jewel here is nothing much to talk about, but it's actually more handy than some of the higher level things that just give you random stuff about chaos strength and things like that. So just a good cheap Nether Stone to have. By the way, I forgot to get Zonte's Relic for you. 1,000 Needles, I got it amped way up, so this is why I got it. Just cast, basically. This lets your bearer, attack and cast a maximum of 20 times per turn. There are additional attacks for each turn taken 15% additional damage for each time attacking or casting a spell, and casting a spell 1 additional time for each turn taken. So just filthy sick for spellcasters. Very nice. So moving on to, let's see, we've gotten past the artifact here. So I have Star Wrath here. It's not rank 50 like I was hoping it would be, but it just does inflict some confusion, takes the offensive edge off a little bit, and then it gives confused creatures that are trying to buff their stats up a chance to lose the stats instead. And the artifact, or relic itself rather, will attack a random enemy with confused. So you can kind of put in any sort of low level or utility relic. I mean, it pretty much doesn't matter. Just try to get something level 50 or higher if you can. Just crush up a lot of Nether Stones and apply that to getting your relic up instead. I mean, I've found that the effects that these relics have wind up being more important than the stones that get crushed up. So for spell gems, I've got Life Orb, which is an improved Requiem that gives a lot more health to your resurrected creatures, plus a good boost of health to your living creatures. So I believe that is one of a cycle of spells that you can find as a guild reward, or it may be an advanced spell that may be out there in the realms. And then Living Armor is, let's see, something that just provides a barrier equal to 100% of max health, and that's on an extra target, generous, and also does have a chance to process on attacking. So kind of takes the momentum and just conserves it, so that way you don't have to either cast Living Armor or attack, because you do want to put things to sleep and just knock them out and just finish the fight quickly, because Sorcerer does wind up running out of debuffs after turn 3, so you just kind of rely on your creatures being banded together on the timeline for extra damage. And then Holy Protection, your creatures gain shelled. No sense in making that cast twice. So and I'll get to the macro after that. So, but certainly add something as an additional fused creature to that spot. And then this is the moneymaker here, Ice Mane Yeti with a nice I'm not going to be political, so you can say who he kind of looks like, good or bad, love him or hate him. Yep, the Yeti's trait is Lingering Frost. So when the Sorcerer perk does trigger on turn 3 to give all enemies frozen, this will apply snared to it. So there's going to be a final application of snared for free, but since you do have Entangling roots already, that will pretty much be more important than Lingering Frost, so this is just kind of an afterthought. Then Jagged Edges, this is the moneymaker of moneymakers here. At the start of each creature's turn, including yours, which is totally awesome and pseudo-broken, enemies with snared take damage equal to 10% of this creature's speed. And this trait does not stack. And then Contradiction, this will give the Yeti 200% more speed, but put it at the bottom of the timeline. Big whoop. Because snared is going to get applied ASAP, and you want to be able to deal damage from the Arachnalisk fusion according to the amount of speed that it has. So going to the boots here, speed, a little bit of defense, more speed, additional attack damage, damage reduction, Entangling Roots as a spell, which is cast or has a chance to be cast once per turn, per the creature's turn rather, not everybody's. And then Glimmering Jewel is very saucy as well. So let me hit C there, and I always unequip my artifact by mistake. So it has some additional goodies, not really as important as 83% speed. So just try to get something that has extra speed there as the primary focus for your Nether Stone. Intelligence and defense can't hurt. Elemental Barrier on turn. So that's defensive. And again, it's unrelated. Magic Missile on defend. I barely defend. I'm usually pretty aggressive to try to get everything killed and the fight ended, especially with the limited number of debuffs that Sorcerer offers in the first 3 turns. So I've got Petra and Ace, War Drums of Meraxis. So this is just something that is all about speed. I think at rank 50 there's a 25% chance to put this at the top of the timeline. Doesn't really matter, honestly. You just want to use this as a mortar type effect where anything that gets snared will just get damaged at the next possible turn. So for spell gems, Curse of the Swarm, which is really good in a multi-class team. That will apply 5 debuffs, I believe, in this one. Let's see, is that right? Yeah, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different classes here. And Chaos Spheres, that'll shut down any troublesome spellcasters. And Tsunami is good about slowing down false gods that just don't know when to stop being obnoxious. So I've got Tsunami set to have more of a stat decrease. I don't care about damage. There's Generous and then 100% chance to cast twice. So that's going to be a big decrease of speed for anything, and it'll let you essentially survive any kinds of customized nastiness coming in, and also get your beat down in with applying snared to anything, because once one creature on the enemy side gets snared, I mean, it's pretty much gonna kill something, and then that is gonna just generate huge amounts of corpse explosions from Zonte with the relic that I've got leveled up so far, so high for him, and that's 1,000 Needles. So if you don't have it at level 100, just get to it as soon as possible. Again, you know, you might get some really crazy nice Nether Stones. If you see something that's really perfect for your build, go ahead and keep it, but otherwise make that sacrifice, crush up everything you can, and make sure that your teams are matching the goblet specialization. It's easy to do, but I mean, you'll get a nice chunk of piety as well if you just complete like 7 runs, because that's 7 times 15 is 105, so 105% fill up for the Goblet of Complaining. So that is that, and then got the Sapphire Drake here. So this is an alternate means of dealing huge damage, and it has to have, and this is a spoiler alert, an anointment of Shadow Sickness, which comes from Blighted. So essentially it's just taking that perk, and these are all the anointments that you can get. And Shadow Sickness basically always gives enemies blighted. So if you've got some tough nuts to crack, basically, so if you have some tough enemies that, you know, for whatever reason are making it around, taking huge amounts of damage from corpse explosions and Razorweb Arachnalisk, the Sapphire Drake's setup is kind of like the final nail in the coffin. So the Drake has Healing Breath, which, as you've seen in many of my explanations before, it's getting hot here. Pardon any audio changes. So anyway, the Drake has, first of all, Healing Breath. So at the start of this creature's turn, heals one of your creatures for 150% health. And then there's Surprise, so it's easy to get this trait spread at start of battle as the very first creature to act with Improbable Catapult, so that gives all enemies a copy of Healing Breath. And so that means with them having Blighted and Healing Breath, they take a good chunk of damage. And then I've got this beauty here from a Nether Stone, so may not be in your wheelhouse, but after your creatures are damaged by an attack or spell, they have a 15% chance to be sent to the top of the timeline. So that, in combination with Tsunami, is really good for taking control of the battle a little bit more easily. And so I've got some defense here. I just want the Sapphire Drake to hang in there to be able to apply its trait, and then it can heal your allies as well with Healing Breath. So it's good to keep the defensive relic here, 5740 NG, equipped to it, and this is where it gains 10% max health. So if your teammates are all getting beaten on, this will just kind of let it hang in there and use Life Orb to bring things back. It doesn't really have that much offense that I can really recommend, so besides its really significant use of Healing Breath and Improbable Artifact and Shadow Sickness, but I mean, that is absolutely plenty. As for spell gems, I got Curse the Swarm yet again, Warp Reality, any creatures that hide behind a barrier, this will knock them out, and Wormhole. If you have a really high priority target that you're worried about getting around jagged edges or corpse explosion, and you really need to get rid of it, just use Wormhole, and then the enemy will be brought to the top of the timeline, take its turn, and also receive 150% of healing as damage, but with Blighted it makes it half of that, so it's 75%. And there is a means of increasing that damage with a second anointment if you want to just make it more aggressive, but again, that will cost an anointment and some of the others that I've already selected here to help enhance this team. So next up, I've got what I call Zonte. I love this creature. This basically, for every fused trait that every creature has that's in common, you get to cast and attack an extra time rather. So here it is. Your creatures attack and cast one additional time for each creature with the same secondary fusion fighting on your side. So maybe I can just go ahead and add some more corpse explosions to my good friend, the Siren Purifier here. So, and then I've got Final Excretion again to work with Zonte, and also its main trait, and then Vitja's Surprise. If you don't have 50,000 brimstone for that, not a biggie. So after this creature is killed or resurrected, it casts its first spell gem 3 times, and that is Corpse Explosion. So, I mean, this whole thing is built on Corpse Explosion, which is really an amazing spell because it takes your team into consideration as well. So you can get it boosted up to 11 times, and then Zonte's intelligence and basically bad attitude are just, I mean, that will, I guarantee, be able to plow right through a lot of garbage, I'd say 99.9% of the time. So, for spells, I got Corpse Explosion again, Life Orb to resurrect stuff and heal it if your team is kind of slumping health-wise. Angry Orchard is cast twice, so that is essentially... oops. Oh, it's got defense penetration, excuse me, and it's generous. So I might shuffle this around if I've got a nature creature in here that could use that. But nah, I see it's loaded up here with things that I do need. I mean, possibly I could take Chaos Spheres out because I barely use it. I mean, essentially it's just an issue of killing spellcasting stuff quickly with massive amounts of damage. So that's that. I got Void Flare as well, so that will knock out any creatures, or at least have a percentage chance of triggering if you defend, so kind of not really that helpful. I mean, unless you had like Gladiator perks splashed in, so yeah, who knows, I might even put something like Dark Seraphim in, and then after that got the Shimmering Stone here, so that is just a good health, intelligence, attack, defense, health, speed, general kind of rounding out sort of benefit. And Lust for Punishment, I can't remember. I think that might just make it a little bit nastier according to amount of debuffs on it, but let's see. All right. Yep, so, all your creatures deal 40% more damage for each debuff that they have. I forgot about that. So, yeah, that's very good, too. I mean, I find that I don't protect my creatures from debuffs. So, yeah, that was a nice extra thing to have. It is random, because that is on the Nether Stone as a bonus trait. So, if you really like that concept, try and work it in elsewhere, because it's going to be tough to find a Nether Stone that has that specific trait there. So, but going back, okay, and then the Relic is Bramble Skin, so this just kind of hands back a lot of damage to anything that's troubling it. So basically cuts the amount of damage in half at rank 30, and then gives it 10% current and maximum health, and then there's 20% more maximum health from stat boosting effects. So that ties right in with rank 40. So nice little boost to have. And we already covered spell gems, and I'll get to the macro shortly. And last of all, and kind of thrown in for buffing purposes is the Amaranth theme, and it does have a big boost to its own health. So it's kind of something that would really be great in an Amaranth build, but on its own, it just kind of serves as an anchor. I have Void Essence, so this is just something that will apply extra maximum health whenever anything is afflicted with stone. So this is Caliban's top secret relic, so you may not have access to it for a bit. Nothing really critical for the Amaranth to be equipped with. Just a relatively competent, at least level 40 or 50 artifact with a tendency toward healing is good. So let's see. So here's Thirst for Power. After your creatures cast a spell, they have a 7% chance to gain a random buff for each spell that has been cast by all creatures in the current battle. So with Zonte casting things quite a bit with 1,000 Needles and everybody else doing some random spell casting, it's just gonna wind up 100% very quickly. And after that, got In All Things. So this will again make the Amaranth a bit of a survivor, kind of passive, but I got into this really wild fight against Zonte at level 10 in Gate of the Gods, and oh my goodness, this thing just hung on. And I mean, it was a nail biter, because I mean, we were just throwing so much of the kitchen sink at each other. It was hilarious, really, but I mean, I was absolutely convinced I was not gonna win. I was down to, I think, just the Amaranth and maybe Zonte, but I think Zonte was really debuffed at the time. So yeah, there's a bit of defense here, bit of attack, just in case you are the only creature, or in case the Amaranth is the only creature left to stick around. And then for spell gems, I've got a stat reset here. Disc of Creation, good against false gods. Void Flare, good against everything but false gods and bosses, in case it comes back. And Steel Storm. But Steel Storm is not even necessary. You'll see that everything really does focus around Corpse Explosions, Razorweb, Arachnalisk, and let's see what else. Oh, and Healing Breath and Blighted. So again, you can get Angry Orchard, turn that into a sorcery. So that might be something you might want to just replace and put something else in. Maybe, you know, a class swapped 9 meteors, so you get massive damage done 9 times, and then you can put defense penetration in, or extra damage, cast twice, what have you. And that is it for everything. I am going to change the strategy here to macro and show you guys the macro, and that is just about it for this team. So this macro is Swarm, and so what I did was just have it say something like, you know, if it doesn't have a super rare minion, cast Entangling Roots. If no creature has You Ruined Christmas, cast Curse of the Swarm. I mean, the chances of all your creatures having 6 of those traits, or 6 of that trait, I'd say about 1,000,000 to 1. And then the same, so if this creature doesn't have Satanashia, cast Feign Death. So that's only really for the Valor Chimera, and I'm thinking about rotating that trait material out for the artifact, but I gotta go ahead and get something fused real quick. The thing is, with this game, sometimes like you'll be making notes to yourself, and it's best to just run right to whatever changes that you need. So I'm going to in party Siren Purifier, and I hope there is an addled Leper, I think, that does the explosion here. Oh gosh, I just realized that will dampen Curse of the Swarm. Oh wow. So yeah, let me get to this Leper here, and oh boy, yeah, I just about saved myself from dampening my stuff. It is Crazed Leper, I believe, so that would be, yeah, wow. So that would be, okay. Alright. Oh shoot. I can either keep the class or I can keep the secondary trait. So let me just see if I had just death, nature, chaos, and sorcery. Yeah, that would dampen the amount of debuffs that I would get with Curse of the Swarm. So it's a tough call, and now I can see why I had left it unfused. But yeah, possibly might want to just have a life creature with no fused trait. So that's about it. That's the entire build here, and I hope you're able to get some of these extra goodies. So I'm going to head back to YouTube and just let people know that I wound up finishing this breakdown of the Sorcerer team. I'm parked at an empty parking lot, so I should probably get going before I get busted. Anyway, thank you for watching, and I'll try to get this